The real-life nightmare, a story of domestic violence and claims of a bizarre sleeping disorder that some experts believe may have caused the attack. You see, it started in the middle of the night as these married parents of 3 small children slept. It then ended with his arrest, an assault charge, and a court order to stay away from his wife. But now both husband and wife are convinced it was not his fault. Juju Chang has the report.
After a night out, Adam and Randy Kearns came back to their house in Keizer, Oregon, and went to sleep.
We had been out dancing, had a great night.
But at 4 a.m., Randy woke to find her husband violently attacking her. Even crazier, she says during the 911 call that he appeared to be sound asleep during the attack.
He started yelling at me. I couldn't reason with him. He looked like he was asleep, and I didn't understand what was going on. All of a sudden, he beat the out of me. I was so scared.
He punched me in the face 3 times. He laid right back down and continued with his sleep.
Adam says he has no memory of any of this happening.
The next thing I know is my wife flying down the hall at me. From that point, I don't remember what had happened other than I hit the front door.
Adam was arrested for felony domestic abuse, and even though he's allowed visitation with his children, he's been ordered to stay away from his wife over her protests.
He's not a violent man. He's never hurt me. He's never even made me feel afraid.
I am so against violence against women, period, that it's destroying me that they're saying that I did this.
Feeling alone, Randy didn't know what to do until just this week when she saw an episode of Dr. Oz. It stopped her in her tracks.
I'm hitting her.
And I was screaming to get him to wake up.
I just thought to myself, that's the same thing Adam has.
Do you have any recollection at all?
Well, that's the thing. I have no idea I'm doing it when I'm doing it.
It's a very real problem that's been studied by physicians. We know it occurs. We know it's not rare.
Here's what he's talking about. REM sleep disorder specialists say being startled in a dream state can trigger primal, violent reactions, a fact that's been documented by numerous medical studies.
We think between 0.5% and 1% of the population has times when they have this disorder where they're dreaming, but they're not paralyzed. So they can act out, they can jump, they can punch. You wake up in the morning, you've got a bruise or a cut, and you don't know how it happened because you slept through the whole thing.
Sleep researchers told us that behaviors like this can sometimes be triggered by sudden interruptions. Adam's episode took place after his 5-year-old entered the bedroom with a nightmare.
And about 4 o'clock in the morning, my middle son, Isaac, he came into the room, and at the foot of the bed, he screamed for me.
Adam has since been diagnosed with REM sleep disorder. We spoke to his doctor, who says it could easily explain what happened, and the Kearns are fighting to clear Adam's name.
I think this couple has a very strong case because REM behavior disorder is not some theoretical problem. This is not a mechanism to escape justice.
In fact, during sleep disorder episodes, the prefrontal cortex remains offline. That's the part of the brain that defines intent and motivation. So the sleepwalker does things without meaning to.
And it's problematic, of course, for couples who deeply love each other and might harm each other, but also as an individual, you could do things that could be detrimental to your well-being and never be aware of it.
Nevertheless, a judge doesn't agree. He is forbidden from having any contact whatsoever with his wife, even when their son recently had surgery for sleep apnea.
I wasn't even allowed to console her or hug her or have any contact with her in that room whatsoever.
He wasn't allowed to put his arms around me. He wasn't allowed to hold my hands while we pray.
My wife and I have been married for 10 years, and we've spent maybe 1-2 nights apart in that 10 years. And this is 2 months. Just trying not to break down, but I can't help it. This is destroying me.
But the prosecutor, Doug Hansen, says the laws are designed to protect the vulnerable.
Once we get evidence of these crimes, our goal is to hold people accountable for the assaults and the other things that have occurred inside that home, and also help these victims get out.
I understand that there is cases where there is domestic violence, but when there's so much evidence that shows that this was a medical problem, God willing, they'll let him come home.
As they fight the court order, their legal fees mount, and the Kerns say they are barely getting by.
We live on love. We don't have very much money.
My oldest son, he's supposed to be doing Little League. We couldn't even afford to sign him up for Little League this year because of lawyers' fees.
If Adam's convicted, the felony has a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison and a $125,000 fee.
The punishment absolutely does not make sense. For them to keep us apart, it's tearing up our family.